Welcome to Backboard Banter on the board with your hosts, Matt Middleton and Kevin Rayner, where the banter's as ferocious as Kyle Kuzma's outfit at Fashion Week this week, man.
Like puffy jackets. All I saw was a bunch of puffy jackets stitched together in like elephant trunks, waving around off his pants. Like Fashion Week is not for me, my friend. It is not for me.
Bro, I do not understand Fashion Week. These people put on like the craziest outfits and then they just call it fashion. Like, I don't know about you, but if I can't move my arms and my legs, I don't think that's actually clothing. I think that's a hindrance to life. So, but hey, call it fashion.
I mean,
Why
low-key,
not?
I wear like the same like six outfits, maybe seven if I'm lucky. I get one for
Same.
every day of the week. Honestly, at this point, we're simple men over here. But what an interesting thing to just see Kyle Kuzma doing his thing. Like, guy is enjoying the off season. We're getting close though. We're getting close. We're almost through. The dog days of summer. We're less than a month away of being able to constantly talk about different basketball games, and man, I
Yeah.
can't wait for it, to be honest.
Dude, I could not be more excited. I know like the NFL's back. I really should do a top 10, but hey man, whatever. We're here to talk about basketball solely now, which, I kind of am enjoying. I really like the basketball conversations because even though it's been the dog days of summer with the Euro basketball, we have had quite a lot to talk about. So, if you want, we could start there, man. All of our boys. Like, what happened? They just lose
It's
in the knockout stage,
uh,
quarterfinals. Like,
sad day
guys,
apparently. Honestly,
no Giannis,
Jokic.
no Luca, no
Oh,
Jokic.
they're all gone. It's over. We're into the semifinals now. We're cheering for Schroeder and Wagner versus Rubio in Spain, and then on the other side we've got Poland with a team I don't think I can pronounce any of their names, and I don't know any of them against Rudy Gobert and Evan Fournier. So like, this is what we got left in this pretty amazing tournament at this point.
Yeah, I know it was a fabulous tournament, man. It just really didn't end the way that anybody wanted to see. I mean, like Luca getting ejected for, I guess, a hard foul.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad, but hey, it is what it is, man. Good luck to the teams that are left, but now I'm gonna stop watching because my favorite players are gone.
It's kind of crazy to think that I bet you a lot of viewership will drop, and also, unless you were specifically rooting for these four teams left because you're a national like person of them, you probably lost a lot of money because I bet you people were betting on Giannis and Luca and Jokic to at least get to the semis for sure.
Oh, 100%, man, that they would not have like in the quarterfinals,
Yeah.
you would have found no better willing to take somebody against Serbia, against the Slovenians, or against Greece, man. Like it just would have been so hard to do. But hey, it is what it is. I mean, I definitely wouldn't have taken. I think we got ousted by what, Brazil at the FIBA America Cup. Like
Yeah.
I would have taken Canada over Brazil, but hey, Brazil, man, knocked us out.
I mean, this is also a classic example where it's hard to just be, a NBA star, join these teams and play this different style of ball as well, right? Rudy Gobert is super successful when it comes to knockout games in Euro basketball, but it's a different story in the NBA, right? So you have to think about, like, I make a joke about Poland and how I don't know them, but those guys know each other really well because they play a ton as a team. So on the one hand, you're right, nobody expects this, but our circle, our bubbles, we don't experience the same things that other people do. So there might be a minority of people who expected it, and so hopefully they enjoy the rest of this tournament.
Yeah, definitely, man. So it's in like people will enjoy the America Cup tournament. It's always nice to have these kind of international games going on right before the season. It really distracts from like some of the negative things that are going on in the NBA world, and unfortunately, we've got two of those things this past week, man. One from a player and one from an owner. Which one do you want to start with?
I mean, let's get Ant out of the way. Anthony Edwards making some poor decisions. I don't know if he's drinking late on a night, posting all the wrong kinds of video to his live, making some poor choices, and then I mean, I don't know about you, but his response was very PR statement style. So it's gonna be interesting to see where the rest of this story goes.
Yeah, I think he'll probably get like disciplined a little bit. There'll probably be some fines levied. It's just unfortunate that he made that error and that people still use that type of language out there. Like it's just unfortunate. Um, but hey, man, like it is what it is. He did what he did, and like to post it on such a public platform, like is he was definitely like you said, like might have been drinking a little bit, might have been having a little bit too much fun. and not realizing what he was actually doing. But still, got to discipline the man because that is not okay.
Well, hopefully it's a lesson learned, right, for players and especially young players around the league. Like, we can't be having this. This is not good. And regardless of whether it comes from a bad place or not, because we switched things over to the Sarver situation with the Suns. This guy who, by all accounts, is not a good human being is going to be banned from the league for a year. Gets a $10 million fine, a nice slap on the wrist. But in my opinion and my hopes is that the fallout and the public outcry that is starting to be seen everywhere will lead to real repercussions for this man, because as a lot of people have stated, what happened was probably not enough.
Yeah, I think it's so tough because I feel like everybody knows that he's not a great guy. Everybody knows that he has some issues with his past and with the way he views the world. So they were expecting like Donald Sterling, strip him of the team, kick him out of the league kind of treatment. But because they don't actually have a voice recording of him or emails or whatever, they don't actually have the actual proof. It's hard to kick him out of the league because you got to think about those owners. They're not going to vote him out when there's no concrete evidence. You and I were talking about it earlier. Like all of them probably have some things in their closet that they're trying to hide, and so if you can get kicked out for rumors, I'm sure none of them want that. But yeah, he definitely should have been punished harder. I find it puts the league in a really tough place to do anything when they don't actually have that physical proof.
And that's why I said that there's hopefully future fallout that comes out of it, right? And I'm totally of the camp that knows that this is kind of what they could do. This was the extent of Silver and the NBA's power for someone like this. As me and Matt were something earlier, they ain't voting him out. There's no way you're getting enough votes to get this guy out of the league when it comes to ownership. So if one sponsorship in a conversation with the Phoenix Suns goes, no, we won't work with you because of him. If the media continues to slander him, if when you have players like Chris Paul coming out, in the positions of power that he has, while also being a member of that team making these comments, hopefully through that fallout, there will be repercussions. But for now, this story is probably just going to get buried and put away, unfortunately.
Absolutely, man. I honestly don't see it going anywhere unless like the star players kind of band together and say we're not playing in Phoenix. And that way it deters fans from wanting to come to the game and bring revenue. If Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, CP3 sat out all of their home games and all of the stars that came into, the Phoenix Arena didn't play,
Be
I'm
crazy.
sure that would create some buzz and some stir, and that would
Yeah.
probably be the best way for him to get out and definitely underscore the need for him to leave. But I would have to agree with what you said, man. It's probably going to get buried short of, anything like that happening. And so it's going to go by the wayside. He'll probably be back next year and everything will just be, back to the status quo, which is just really sad, man. It's just the way that our world works, unfortunately.
Billionaires gonna be billionaires. Well, let's move along away from this not so great conversation to a conversation about five other No, we're not going to talk about the team owners. We're going to talk about five actual teams in the NBA, the players, the things that may be considered as assets to these teams, but are really what draws us as fans to the NBA to watch these stars play the best basketball they can. This week, Matt, we're going along the Northwest, and stars galore. Maybe not in this type of division.
Dude, I think there's one competent team in the entire division at the moment. I think like you've got Denver and a bunch of kind of middling teams. Like Portland thinks maybe we're gonna retool and figure it out around Damian Lillard. I mean, remember when they acquired Jeremy Grant at the beginning of the offseason? Everyone was
Crazy.
freaking out. Oh, Portland's actually gonna be good. And then like the Christian Wood stuff happened, and then like the Donovan Mitchell trade happened. The Rudy Gobert, like nobody cares about that trade anymore. Portland washed. OKC without Chet Holmgren, are they even going to be interesting? Probably not. Utah, like, come on,
Rebuild.
man. Yeah. And then you got like Denver, who's competent and knows what they're doing, and Minnesota, who's putting together something who they hope is going to be the first time in what 40 years that they're actually like decent in the top half of the Western Conference when it comes to playoffs. Like, no.
It's just a collection of
Yikes.
teams. That's all it is at this point. There's a bunch of good players that kind of are spread around, right? And you have the Nuggets who are just this close, and the T-Wolves who are hopefully going to be this close. But besides that, everyone else is retooling. So I mean, we could start at the top. We could start with the Nuggets and the T-Wolves. Those would be my two personal favorites to get out of the way.
Well, buddy, I'm going to start with your absolute favorite player in Nikola Jokic. I think Denver is a good place to start because at the end of the day, I think they're going to be the number one team in this division. Out of any team in this division, they definitely have the best shot to be in the number one spot in the West, top three spots in the West. The fact that I think they were what, fifth or sixth last year? I think they were sixth last
Mm.
year without Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. Getting those guys back this year is just going to be like money in the bank for them. And I think that they're going to be probably, you know, I would say a 55 win team easily.
I mean, I want to see success for this Nuggets teams for so many reasons. Like, obviously, Jokic has had such an amazing few years for this team, regardless of the players around him and what he's had to struggle through, right? And last year's first round playoff exit for these guys was tough, and it hurt a lot of people, not even just Nuggets fans. I think a lot of people wanted to see more for Jokic. We want to see more out of this MVP, and barring injuries, this year it's going to happen, man. The way this team is coming together, the players they have, like, we talk about a player like KCP who's a part of this roster now who's going to love the open shots that he's going to get. I mean, my personal favorite reason why I want to see this team succeed, I want to see Ish Smith get a ring, get some success. This guy, ultimate journeyman, he's been on so many teams at this point in time. This would be such a good thing for him, but you're right. It really comes down to Michael Porter Jr., and it comes down to making sure that the Canadian Maple himself is also injury free. Like, we have hopes to see success out of this roster this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And like they didn't lose anything major off the roster. I think DeMarcus Cousins, Austin Rivers are your biggest
Yeah,
losses for Denver, and then like adding in like you said KCP and the second best player on on the Brooklyn Nets last season in Bruce Brown.
yeah, that's
Like
true.
good ads. And they're gonna be feisty, man. Like they're gonna be a really solid team. Um, I thought they were going to make some noise last year before the injuries happened. So I would say that again they're going to make some noise, and it's all about the playoffs for them, though, man. Like regular season success means nothing. Nikola Jokic winning another MVP means nothing. It's how far in the playoffs can we go? Can we get to the finals? Can we win this thing? Because like short of that, man, like they've done everything else.
And you've set me up here for what I want to say next, because I look at this season for Jokic and this team as a redemption arc. I think about what Giannis had to go through, for example, after his two MVP seasons, right? Finally having it all come together. And the thing that I really look for that is different than the Milwaukee type of run, it's Coach Malone. Honestly, this guy is a championship level coach who can get them there, and he's been doing it with one true superstar and a bunch of guys just coming in when they can. So they stay healthy, if they make it happen, I'm excited to see how far this Nuggets squad is going to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Again, I think we beat this one to the ground. It's health and playoffs, but they're a solid roster, man. Let's jump to the bottom of the conference. I'm actually gonna say that it's still OKC, even though Utah has sold off Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. I still think OKC is at the bottom of this thing. I like SGA. I like Lou Dortz. I really, really like Giddy, but losing Holmgren sucks, man. It makes me so disappointed for their season this year. It's back to the tank machine.
It's crazy, when every week I put together my little lists of who did this team add, who did they remove for themselves. And OKC has only added new draft players. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, was that the same as last year? Because with Chet injured, it might be the same going into next year. And we talk about Shea, how long can he hang out and be a part of this rebuild? Because honestly, the mental struggle of having to play season after season, knowing that you may not get 20 wins, it has to start to break down certain people. And at the end of the day, yes, OKC has all these assets. Yes, they've got all these young guys. And this season with Chet was supposed to be the turnaround season, but all of that's gone now. It's all gone. I'm sorry to say. Like, we all have accepted that.
It's all gone, and with Shea only getting older, like he's 24 now, he's starting to hit his NBA prime, like if he's not already hitting it right
Yeah.
now this season, like they've got to maximize on that if he's ever going to become the all-star level player that we all see him to be. Like I think a lot of NBA people who and casual fans who even watch it know this guy has star power. So it's just, can you unlock it? Can he be part of the right team? I just don't see it in OKC, man. I just think that they're twiddling their thumbs out there. Um, Sam Presti's earned some leeway because of the team that he did build with, Kevin Durant, Westbrook, and Harden, but he should also be a little bit on the hot seat because he gave up Harden for, like a bag of pillows.
Yeah.
And like nobody's held him accountable for that.
And
So
you
he's
also
got
have
to
to
do something.
remember this team was in the playoffs with Chris Paul, a quarter away from knocking out the Rockets 2 seasons ago in the playoffs. So like the tank just keeps going down, and eventually you have to turn it around. At this point, fans can only enjoy so much. Like, yes, you could think to yourself, "Cool, I'm excited for this team, but I'm not excited for them now. I'm excited for them for 5 years from now, 6 years from now, 7 years from now." I mean, time's gone pretty fast in the past 3 years for me, but I would not want to be sitting there going, "Man, I can't wait till I'm like 35 and my team is good." Like that's not it, man. That's not it.
And then also like they don't have a surefire like top 10 player on their team,
Nope.
and or like potential top 10 player. Like Chet Holmgren's supposed to be that type of player potentially, but him losing a whole year of development and probably one of the most important years of development in terms of your NBA career arc is just brutal for me. Like it tampons his ceiling, it tampons their whole season expectations. It was just a brutal loss, and it kind of ended any kind of positive storyline that their season was going to have. And at the end of the day, they were 24 and 58 last year. They're going to be 24 and 58, if not worse, this year.
And we in the Eastern Conference can look to teams like Boston, can look to teams like the 76ers who went through that rebuilding process, who got their early draft picks. I think about how, Joel lost that whole first year in Philadelphia, not directly through that injury, but through a lot of things. Philadelphia has been struggling to get over the hump. And Boston, while they also have struggled, they've succeeded a little bit more. And so OKC needs to figure out the right steps to take, the right directions, the right players to really, hold on to be the Boston, not the Philly when it comes to 5 years from now. That's kind of the way that I'm seeing it.
Man, Boston got lucky after they fleeced Brooklyn, man. They just used Brooklyn's picks. They never really bottomed out personally. And I think that's what has allowed them to be so competitive and to have that quick turnaround. I mean, like Jason Tatum in his rookie season was in the Eastern Conference Finals, right?
Yeah.
Like they got their guy and they were immediately Eastern Conference Final ready. Whereas like again, nobody on OKC is at Jason Tatum's level. Um, maybe Shea could have been a little bit, or even Josh Giddey, like right now as a rookie, if they had the pieces around him,
Yeah.
may not have like as a scorer, but as like a type of player, could have fit into a roster that pushes them to the Western Conference Finals. But they'd have to have a roster, man. They have nobody on that roster. Like it is just a bunch of future flyers on players with like Lou Dortz. Like that's their only veteran. Like it's kind of sad.
Matt, they literally took Jalen Williams 12 and then Jalen
Jalen
Williams
Williams.
34th. Like, guys, I know, funny. Are
What are
we
you
just
even doing?
memeing? Yeah, are we just memeing in OKC now at this point? But, to the only serious things that I can think about when it comes to this team is that hopefully, they see development. Hopefully Josh Giddey really is going to break out, from being an almost unknown Australian kid to now suddenly being maybe the main ball handler, especially if you trade Shea away. He definitely has the ball in his hands all the time. And can that
Definitely.
work out with their other young stars around them? Sorry, other young assets around them. None of these guys have really proven that they can be stars yet. So OKC is crazy to think still a long way from success.
Oh, they are so far away, man, and all of those future draft picks are just they're flyers, man. They're absolutely nothing until they actually turn into players, and they haven't actually been able to produce players at a rapid enough rate, and they're even taking like big swings in the later half of the first round, like Alex Pukashevsky or whatever his name is last year. Like he's actually kind of panned out a little bit, but again, it was a swing. It's a wild swing on a skinny, tall guy. So that's just kind of the territory that they're in. And Sam Presti, like I said at the beginning of this, has apparently earned enough leeway that he can do whatever he wants for the next 5 seasons, and it's all good in OKC. So, I mean, again, they'll be bad. They're going to be the bottom of the Western Conference, probably the very last team in all of the NBA. Like Victor Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren, what could go wrong in the front court there?
That's it, right? But honestly, I'm going to enjoy watching highlights from this team all season long. Unless they're playing the Raptors, I'm probably not going to watch any of these games. Maybe I'll tune into a fourth quarter if Josh Giddey has like 20, 15, and 14 or something, right? Just to see how it ends. But this team isn't exciting to watch. And, I look at the other teams in this division that we haven't talked about yet with the Blazers, the Jazz, and the T-Wolves. While they're all in different situations, I'd rather watch Jazz games. I'd rather watch Blazers games when it comes to this. So OKC really is the bottom of the barrel right now.
Yeah, and if you're good to move on from them, man, I'd rather talk about Portland, because Minnesota's obviously trying to win, Utah's obviously trying to lose. Portland, I don't know what they're trying to do, man. I think they're trying to win, but I don't know if they understand where their roster is. And adding Jeremy Grant while trading CJ McCollum last year is got to be the most counterintuitive thing I've ever seen an NBA team do in the last couple years. Like,
Is there confusion? Because I can tell you one thing. I know Damian Lillard wants to win, and he's loyal to a fault at this point. So where will the Blazers go? Are they going to win 40 games? Like, I think that they could. I think if everyone stays healthy, and I think that Dame has the type of season that he wants to have, right? Like, they definitely can be a good team, but in this day and age, there's too many great teams in the NBA to be really
you're
competitive.
you're talking about like a 40-win season as their ceiling, man. Like, what are they doing? Why are they trading futures for Jeremy Grant
Yeah.
and giving away CJ McCollum when there's like, oh, it doesn't make any sense, man. Why would you want, like, if your floor is 25 wins because you have Damian Lillard and Jeremy Grant and like enough players, Yusuf Nurkic, like, and enough around them that you're gonna get to 25 wins, but your ceiling is only 45, 48 at most, like your ceiling, and you have no developmental in there, like Anthony Simons, but again, I would take Gary Trent Jr. over Anthony Simons personally. Um, like you're wasting a year of NBA basketball, man, of your franchise's history. Like, it is a lost year. Either tank or start building your team to get to a point where it's developing, like where maybe the 48 win ceiling is the ceiling this year, but if we did hit 48, next year's ceiling is like 68, because we've got that development. Doesn't seem to be the case.
I think the front office was really either hoping to maybe push Damian Lillard away to maybe get that trade to do it. Obviously, they're really hoping that Shaden Sharp can be something, but I mean, didn't he just have an injury that have to deal with something?
He didn't play all
So
year, bro.
here we are. So like, what are they gonna do at this point in time? Like, the Blazers have to figure it out now. We haven't mentioned Gary Payton because they did add Gary. He is a championship player at this point in time.
Okay.
He will be a good asset.
Okay.
I'm trying here. I'm trying to break
No,
something up,
that's a
but
fact.
that's the
Sure.
thing, right? But so the Blazers are in a weird place. There's no other way to say it. They really are in the middle, and I don't know, man. 46 wins, yeah, sure. 50 wins, if Damian Lillard puts up 40 a night, maybe. Like, that's the extremes that has to happen.
Again, though, you're talking about something like out of the ordinary, like out of this world. He's going to have to be the best scorer that we've ever seen, better than prime Michael Jordan. And their ceiling is still maybe 50 wins. Maybe if everything goes right and they're lucky, and he's the greatest scorer ever in the history of any single season in NBA history. Like, what? How about we don't trade for Jeremy Grant in the first place? If we decide to trade CJ McCollum, we convince Damian Lillard that he needs to get traded,
Yeah.
and we take back a reduced package for him. I don't need to maximize what I'm getting on Damian Lillard because I'm going to be so bad for the next 5, 6 years. Like, I'm going to be in the front half of the lottery. trade Yusuf Nurkic, bottom out, and let's figure this thing out from the studs, man. Because like when you have a piece as nice as Damian Lillard, it's like buying like a beat down old home with like this beautiful marble wall in the middle of it. And it's like you want to open that wall up to make the home this beautiful open concept home, but it's a marble wall. Do you really want to smash that? Like, do you really want to take it down? And that's where they are, man. They're in this decrepitated home and they don't want to smash their marble wall. Just do it, because when you get to the finished product, it's going to be so much better than just having a marble wall. Idiot.
You know the Simpsons meme where he like pulls all of his fat back and like ties it behind him, and there's just yeah, that's what Portland. That's what we're looking at right here. It's not good. It's not good. And I mean, maybe this season will say something, right? You know, if they do bottom out, if injuries affect them, maybe they're gonna have something. Maybe they will be amazing, and you can bet on the fact that Damian Lillard is a 16 game player, because he is a 16 game player. I think Damian Lillard has that type of capabilities. He's shown in the playoffs that he can be a killer. But you need a couple 16 game players to actually win a championship. And when I look down this roster, you know, Gary Payton, he could be your fifth 16 game player, but no.
You gotta get to the playoffs, man. They're not getting to the playoffs. Like I'll put money on it right now. Like, you know, Portland fans, if you're watching this, hit me up. I'll take bets.
This is gonna be dangerous when we get a little further down in this episode. That's for sure. Okay, well, I think that's enough Blazers for now. We can stop being mean to any Trailblazers fans at this point. Are we going down or are we going up? Where do you want to go? Second last team here.
Let's just do Utah, man. I mean, they've been the talk of the offseason. Everybody has been talking about the trade that happened between the two last teams that we have here. And Utah just kind of stripping it down to the studs, man. Honestly, though, like looking at their roster, I'm not even like too upset about it. It's a very competent, like rebuilding roster. They've got some decent young pieces like Lauri Markkanen, Vanderbilt, Sexton, Talen Horton-Tucker, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Like, that's decent to start with. And like they've got like 9 first round picks in 3 different drafts. They've got so many picks, man. They're just rebuilding at this point. Like,
Utah has options. It's a simple fact matter. They have so many options, and we finally got to this point. You know, I was hoping that we could make this last as long as we could, because every week it seems like Utah might trade somebody else. So I was like, yeah, why talk about Utah yet? Because eventually their team's going to be different. And I mean, they still have the opportunity to trade more of their top tier players, right? Like Conley could get you something on a team. Boyan could get you something on a team. Clarkson's definitely going to get you something on a team. So they have the possibility of tanking harder. But your comments of how they have a competent team is really interesting, because, you know, we talked about Boston earlier and how they didn't truly bottom out. Like, Utah has enough picks where they don't need to gather a ton more. They could take this squad that they have here, work their young assets, and figure out where the rest of their guys can go. They're in a decent place.
Yeah, but Minnesota would have to go the way of the Brooklyn Nets. Like, that's the thing, or Cleveland. And I don't see that happening with either of those teams. Like, Cleveland's such a good young roster. They're going to be, like, back half of the first round 20s and later with, like, all those picks. And then Minnesota, unless, like, something catastrophic happens to one of Gobert, Anthony Edwards, or Karl Anthony Towns, like, again, you're looking at maybe teens at the best. So, like, they've got a ton of picks. I would try to use those picks to get a disgruntled star, man. Like, I would try to go after Kevin Durant. Offer your 3 first round picks next year and your 3 first round picks in 2025. Offer them 6 first round picks for Kevin Durant. Come on. And you get Kevin Durant on your team.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's probably what Danny Ainge is thinking. Like, he's probably thinking that he's going to hoard these picks until a superstar becomes available, and then, you know, do what he does and trade for them.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, Colin Sexton, man, as the number 1 option on the Cleveland team, I think it was 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
He was a breakout player. I think he was an all-star. People were talking about Colin Sexton potentially being, you know, one of the better young and up-and-coming players. And then Darius Garland overtook him this year. But, hey, man, in Utah, you let him run wild. Throw a little Stanley Johnson defense out there. Like, damn, you got yourself a team.
Yes, sir. I think a lot of people forget that Colin Sexton was injured. In that, like, he kind of went on the back burner,
Yes.
and then DG did what he did, and so I think
Why
people
would you
are
replace him?
really underestimating Sexton. I think that he's gonna do really well in Utah, and obviously we talk about Stanley. We love X Raptor Stanley. Poor guy is no longer a Laker. I think Lakers, you made a mistake. He would have been great for you to continue to have, but that's not the conversation we're having right now, right? We're talking about the Utah Jazz and their future, but at this point, it's kind of just there. It's on hold. We're all waiting to see if they're going to trade anything more. If they don't, they're going to go into the season and they'll definitely be a part of something at the trade deadline. I would be amazed to see this team not do something else at this point. They've proven that they're willing to move on. And I mean, the comments that you heard about how, when Danny Ainge got there, he was like, the team didn't really feel like he was together, it didn't really know what it wanted, that kind of situation. Those are really interesting and really telling. And we can only know so much about the Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert relationship, but the fact that in recent interviews Mitchell's been like, oh, I didn't want them to trade Gobert, like we were friends. Like, yes, in hindsight you could say whatever you want now that we are here what we are, but it looks like maybe things weren't as bad, but also were very bad in Utah. That's the thing, like there's such conflicting stories.
Dude, they had a good roster. Like they had a good roster built around two pretty good all-stars in Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. And actually just thinking about Portland, like having CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard, Yusuf Nurkic, like it's a similar idea in terms of where they were.
Yeah.
And Portland is fighting that middling thing that we just talked about, and Utah's going the opposite direction. They've decided like, hey, we're gonna rip out these two guys who are, you know, decent players. It's almost like a light version in Colin Sexton and Lauri Markkanen, and be worse, get some high draft picks,
Yeah.
and figure it out from here. Because at the end of the day, like, there's no point to hoping that you come eighth. There's zero point to hoping that seventh place is in your cards. Like that is not a good place to be as an NBA franchise. Either you're gunning for the number one seed or you're gunning for last place. That's how I feel if I were running a team. And I'll say it
And
until I'm blue in the face, fam.
you're specifically thinking about it in the mindset of having a superstar and not having a superstar as well, right? Because the superstar enables you to be a contender. But if you're a superstar like
Bro.
Portland, who is praying to get the eighth and seventh seed, that's not great. If you're a Cleveland Cavaliers team pre-Mitchell trade, praying to get the eighth and seventh seed, that's actually sick because you're a rebuilding team, right? I just wanted to clarify that, obviously.
Yes.
But
Yeah, 100%.
Utah needs to figure it out. They've made the right decisions, and now they need to keep chugging along and not get stuck in purgatory like maybe OKC kind of is, and not keep rising but not falling enough. Like this middling point for NBA franchises is not proven to do well for anyone. So hopefully the Jazz go in a good direction because I like their throwback jerseys, and I am a fan of the Rocky Mountains. So I would love to see Utah be okay.
Dude, the worst thing is though is you can get stuck in those things. Like, you know, theoretically we all think Utah's trying to tank right now, but let's say Colin Sexton averages 24 points a game next year. Let's say Taylor Horton Tucker looks like more of that ceiling of what when he was a first year player than he has the last few
True.
years. And Lauri Markkanen is hitting big shots and is playing a great four role. Maybe this team is, 10th or ninth. And I think like if you're a Utah Jazz fan, that's probably your biggest worry in the entire world is coming ninth, is trading Donovan Mitchell, trading Rudy Gobert, and then coming ninth. Because that is just the last place you want to be.
It's
Yep.
fade for Wembanyama time. They need a true star to add to this roster. And we can
Not
flip over to
Wembanyama.
T Wolves. Yeah, I know Matt's always going to do that. But we can flip over to T Wolves now. A team that did tank out, a team that did get multiple first round picks, and looks like they're going to be the most relevant that they've been in a very long time. Maybe Kevin Garnett, maybe even way before that when we're talking about relevancy, because
Yeah, I think
on
so, man.
paper, much like the Jazz were in recent
Yeah.
years, this team is going to show up this year and they're going to be relevant. And I personally think that they're fighting for a top four seed and for home court in the playoffs. And will that happen? Rudy Gobert likes to say that it will happen, but it'll be tough.
Dude, this roster is really good. I really like the fact that they added Austin Rivers as like a backup point guard to D'Angelo Russell. Maybe you could even start for D'Angelo Russell at this point. D'Angelo Russell isn't playing that kind of basketball anymore. The fact that they got slow mo Kyle Anderson, I really like.
Huge pickup.
Yeah, I think this team is really solid, and as much as they win in the regular season and as good as they look in the regular season, let's say Ant takes a huge step forward and he looks like Michael Jordan even more than he does now. And, Karl Anthony Towns is the best version that we've ever seen of Karl Anthony Towns. And Rudy Gobert is unbelievable. Until the playoffs come, man, like, count me as
Yeah.
somebody who just doesn't really care what the Minnesota Timberwolves do all season until it actually matters. Because I think that they've got a great roster, man. On paper, they definitely have one of the 10 best rosters in the NBA. They have a championship level roster when you think about all the pieces that they have in place. Like, if Anthony Edwards is truly that guy, if Karl Anthony Towns can really maintain his peaks in the playoffs, and, the way that we think about Karl Anthony Towns' offense complementing Rudy Gobert's defense and how they make up for each other's deficiencies and all that kind of stuff, they definitely have a championship caliber roster. I just don't know how it all works together, and I don't love this idea that like Pat and Gobert are going to form some super forward. It just doesn't work for me.
We have to see it on the court. As simple as that. We have to see how it goes, because you can have all these concepts, you can have all these ideas and ways that you want to play basketball, but there's the human element to it. These people are people. And so who knows how it will go. I think a fresh start for Rudy will be good. It'll be interesting to see how he finds strides in a new system, because as far as we know, everything's been built around Rudy in Utah for the almost entirety of his career while he's been there as that huge towering presence. And while that will be similar, obviously the way that the Wolves play is a very different game, right? Will they be the 3-point shooting monstrosity that Utah has seen? Like, it's possible, right? Can Anthony Edwards be a shooter that way? That's the question. There's so many different ways for this T-Wolves roster to go, but if Towns can actually be, as he says he is, one of the best offensive players in NBA history, his words, not mine, they'll be good. But that is a bold statement, Kat. That's a bold statement.
Man's been making a lot of bold statements lately. Did you see the thing where the reporter asked him, "What do you expect from you and Anthony Edwards this season?" And he said, "Shaq and Kobe level play that the NBA has never seen." Like, dude,
Yeah.
dude. We saw you in the playoffs last year. You weren't good.
I
Like, you were.
mean, one of those games, he was extreme. Like, when we talk about the play-in, if we want to go back all the way before that series that the T-Wolves probably should have won, let's talk about the play-in, where the first play-in game, I'm pretty sure Cat did not show up. He came back in
Bro
game
had
two
like
and was
11
sick.
points.
Exactly, right? So, Cat, we need to not see as many stinker games from you if you're only going to have as many opportunities as you've had in the playoffs. And, okay, we're in a new fresh start. We're wiping the slate clean. This is a new Minnesota Timberwolves because it's a new situation, but there's still a ton of old players and old tendencies that are going to exist in this squad. And if they can get over that hump and they can find their new rhythm and stay healthy and come together, top 4 seed. If they can't, man, I'm looking at Golden State. I'm looking at Phoenix still. Even there's still too many teams in this Western Conference that they can't match up against.
Well, I think that's the biggest issue, man. I think that they just can't match up. That they don't have it in terms of the top tier teams. I think the Clippers are ahead of them. I think Golden State's ahead of them. So all of that is going to be the reason that, like, it just matters what they do in the playoffs. They could be the number one seed going into the playoffs, but unless they do anything in the playoffs, I don't want to see it.
And it's as simple as that. We've gotten, I think, to the end of this Northwest conversation here, because yeah, that's the Wolves right now, and that's also a bunch of these teams here. We are simply just waiting. Fans are waiting. Players are waiting. We're a few weeks out from training camp. We're a few weeks out from preseason. We're gonna take a week off next week so we don't have to think about it ourselves, because we need a break as well. I'm also going to a wedding, so I'll be away. That's also part of the story. But when it comes to this Northwest division, there's a bunch of teams that are waiting for the next step to take. And will we see it? Time will tell.
Yeah, no, it's you know on paper it's great until I see it in real life. I can't. Yeah. I can't say anything until I see it in real life, my friend. But I think that's the Northwest Division, man. I think it's going to be one of the more middling divisions, probably mediocre at best. They had 3 playoff teams last year, though, so hey, maybe they'll get at most they'll have 2 at
I would
most.
be I'd be amazed to have three. We'd have to see some crazy things. But again, it's the NBA, right? Anything is possible. Anything can happen. We flip over to Raps chat, we'll find that there's really nothing to talk about this week. It's a quiet week all around. You know, we got JV number of days until the season starts, and we get to see Raptors start. And by season start, I mean preseason, because
Preseason.
we're still waiting for games. But I mean,
Bro.
heck, the most exciting thing for me is watching Scotty play 2K, literally on Twitch, because there's nothing else going on for the Raptors right now.
At the end of the day, man, we're close to basketball, so that's what really counts here. Like you said, that week off is going to get us there even faster. So hey, yeah, we'll be talking about the Atlantic Division next time you see us, and hopefully basketball will be right around the corner.
I cannot wait, my friend. But
Money.
let's move into some hot takes and predictions. A classic end to here. And okay, Matt, you might have to close your ears here because what I'm about to say might be blasphemy here. But I got faith in Damian Lillard. Okay, I got faith in these Blazers. Just like I think a joke I made about a different team a few weeks ago, they're gonna make the play-in. Whether they're gonna win it is gonna come down to Damian Lillard doing Damian Lillard things. But first round exit for sure with this team.
Bro,
That's my
they ain't making the
expectation.
play-in. They ain't making the play, and I'll take that action right now. Um, Here, I got a good spicy take for this one. I'm thinking SGA gets traded this season. I think that they go with Josh Giddey. I think that they embrace the tank a little bit more. I think Shea's too good for them to be a bottom feeder in the West. So they trade him. They give it to Josh Giddey, and hopefully the Raptors get him for OG Anunoby and a first-round pick. I'm just going to throw that in just for a little bit of extra spice on there. Hopefully it works out for our Raptors, because that would be a great trade.
I'd be
Not
happy
gonna
to
lie.
see it. And also, like you look at SGA. Does he really want to sit out, 20 more games? Does he really want to waste more of his career? Like, if he plays a whole nother season and sits out the last 15, 20 games of the season, he's probably missed almost a season's worth of games
At
in his
least.
career, which is insane. So yeah, hopefully he gets traded and gets out of there so that it could be the best of both worlds for both teams.
Yeah, definitely, man. I'd love to see him in a Raptors uniform, that's for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that just about wraps it up here. So thanks everybody for being here. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Board Sports. Like, subscribe, give us that thumbs up, and check out theboardsports.net for new episodes and blog posts.
And we'll talk to you next time.